In Kenya, the National Hospital Insurance Fund has dropped its bid to have workers earning more than 100,000 shillings pay more in monthly contributions, easing the financial strain on top earners and their employers. The state-backed health insurer has committed to keeping the monthly premiums unchanged in a response to a parliamentary petition opposing the planned increase of monthly contributions for top earners. Very interesting. Joining us to discuss further is the CEO of Alpha African Advisory, Sanyade Okoli. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. So starting in Kenya, I wanted to get your thoughts on what's happening and whether you support a income-based tiered insurance premium system.
I think it really depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Is it a tax? If it is a tax, then it really does need to be based on income. But if it is insurance, then it really should be related to the benefits. So higher earning people going to benefit more. Some would argue not, in that the more educated people are likely to take more preventative care than those less educated. So it really depends on how you're looking at it.
So as far as funding, if they're dropping this measure, then I mean, how do you think they would keep their insurance or a state-backed insurance system funded if they're not going to make those at the top pay more?
Well, they're dropping it under pressure. Obviously, they're trying to increase it because it's struggling. The last time there was a proper revision was, I think, in 2015. But what they're also doing, which is going to be interesting to see what the outcome is, that they're making it compulsory for all adults. That means they're going to drag more people from the informal sector into the net. But those people, so you're going to have more people in absolute terms, but those people are generally going to be lower earning people. That means their contribution will be lower because there is some level of income related basis now. So you're going to have more people coming in with less money. How's that going to work? I think that might put more of a strain than they desire.
What do you make of the furious lobbying that came in to prevent this from going in?
Well, whenever there's a proposed increase, let's face it, there will be lobbying.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it's not surprising because some of the people who would be forced to make higher contributions already have private health insurance. So they feel like they will be paying for something they're not actually even benefiting from. But then the question is, shouldn't the wealthier be supporting health insurance for the poor?
There it is. When you look at the NHS in the UK, the incredibly expensive healthcare in the United States, I mean, across the world, unless people become invincible or immortal or they stop getting sick, with expanding populations, how can state healthcare survive?
It's a word that most people don't like to hear.
Taxes?
How is he going to do it? If you want it to be affordable. So you can invite more private sector participation, but that comes with a cost, right?
Gosh, what a challenge.
There's no easy solution.
The news cycles with health insurance, they never stop flowing through. Never. Let's go to South Africa. What do you make of this back and forth between is it vegan, plant-based firms and the regulator?
I'm trying to understand what the regulator really has an issue with. Because for the longest time, we've seen things like vegan burgers, etc., etc. It's like, I don't understand the issue. You have sausages, you have pork sausages, chicken sausages, beef sausages, vegetable sausages. I don't understand the issue.
They want them to rebrand.
But having said that, something like biltong, where it is really, to this day, people still see it as a meat product. I can see why they have an issue. And in some ways, you can see that for certain things, not everything, certainly not burger and sausages, it's like people who do fizzy wine not being allowed to call it champagne unless it's from a particular area.
Gotcha.
But it's where they draw that line, and I think really you've got to choose your battles.
Indeed.
Vegan burger, let it go.
Do you think plant-based diets over time can grow enough to support these type of companies? Because we're still largely carnivores. Well, we're omnivores, of course, but still largely meat lovers on the continent. You think plant-based diets can grow over time?
Well, absolutely, because a lot of these companies, they wouldn't continue in business if it wasn't viable. And is it going to completely take over meat? No. But then we also know that the greater demand for meat is having a significant impact on the environment because the amount that the animals themselves require to sustain them is a drag on the environment. So I do expect to see a move towards more plant-based diet based on climate concerns and health concerns.
Okay, quickly to Ghana and the noise pollution report from the Ghanaian Environmental Protection Agency. Do you think that there's a health risk or disruption from loud noise? I mean, and commercial capitals of cities like Accra, Lagos, New York, all these big cities, can they be forgiven because they're commercial capitals?
Well, yes, it does affect the quality of life. Yes, it's not surprising that you have that in big cities. And the one word that comes to me is thoughtfulness. I think more of us just needs to be thoughtful because some of the noise pollution really is avoidable. Let's call a spade a spade. Sometimes you find people in confined spaces with loudspeakers that are wholly unnecessary.
Right. You think, but so here in Nigeria, the former governor of Lagos State, Fashola, he tried I think he tried to use fines or something to try to reduce it, but it didn't work. It didn't work. So as far as with Ghana coming out with this report now, it's a report and it talks about the number of complaints year on year, which have continued to increase. But besides being considerate of others, is there, as far as enforcement on the part of the government, is there anything that you think can be done?
Of course, because if they can enforce in other places, then I don't see why they can't enforce in our environment. The key question is making sure that we do so in a culturally sensitive way. Because the reality is, for example, parties, we do have parties, we do play loud music, etc., etc. So trying to say everything must stop at 10 o'clock because that's what happens in other parts of the world probably isn't going to work, but there's a certain level of reasonableness that should be enforceable.
I have a similar question on the health insurance thing to this noise pollution thing. Again, expanding populations. If the infrastructure doesn't expand to be commensurate with the population growing, then you've got more people congested in those small spaces, and they would considerably be louder, would they not? So isn't there, as with I guess with health insurance as funding, but on the noise part, isn't there a case to be made that you've got to just spread people out more so that they're not making
if only life were that easy. Yeah, absolutely. Just spread them where they're going to. Urbanization is here to stay. If the jobs and everything are in the big cities, the people will come to the big cities. And you have finite space. So yes, you do have greater population density there. But it's all about just being reasonable.
And even, but you see, part of that report, aside from the religious centers, they did mention businesses. They mentioned restaurants and pubs. So if you're a restaurant owner and a pub owner, you want as many people in your business over the weekends up until the early hours of the morning partying. Can you be accused of not being reasonable if you're just trying to?
Because I think it's up to a certain time. What is that time? Again, it would have to be based on the particular place, etc., etc. But is it reasonable to be playing loud music every weekend till 2, 3 a.m.? Well, not really, because it does have a very negative impact on the others, which could impact on health. Because if they're not sleeping, there are more health issues, which places more demand on your already stretched health infrastructure.
I love how you link that together. Expertly done. Sanyade Okoli, CEO, Alpha African Advisory, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time. And that's going to do it for the Global Business Report. Do stay tuned to Arise News from all of us. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your company. I'm Rosie Sodiri. Up next, it's Newsday, so stay tuned.